Now, the Attorney General Pam Bondi is now suing the state of New York, the governor, and Letitia James. Also, instead of Democrats focusing on the fraud that's been discovered by DOGE, they're focusing on getting reparations passed. And the Democrats, once again, have lost in court to Trump. These stories and more in this video, but let's start with what Pam Bondi had to say.
We're here today because we have filed charges against the state of New York. We have filed charges against Kathy Hochul. We have filed charges against Letitia James and Mark Schroeder, who is with DMV. This is a new DOJ, and we are taking steps to protect Americans, American citizens, and angel moms, like the mom standing right behind me, who you're going to hear from in a moment. New York has chosen to prioritize illegal aliens over American citizens. It stops today. As you know, we sued Illinois, and New York didn't listen. So now you're next. Millions of illegal aliens with violent records have flooded into our communities, bringing violence and deadly drugs with them.
Now, if you've been following Pam Bondi and what President Trump has mandated her to do on behalf of all Americans, then this really doesn't come as a shock. In fact, I was waiting for this announcement, and I'm sure many will come after this because we know these sanctuary cities, particularly in these blue states, are defying the executive orders from President Trump. What is that exactly? Well, these sanctuary cities are using their own local laws to prevent ICE agents from deporting illegal aliens. And yes, there is an example of what I'm talking about here. But first, let's hear Pam Bondi continue to explain why she is bringing this lawsuit against New York, particularly the New York DMV commissioner.
What they've done is they have a tip-off provision that requires New York's DMV commissioner to promptly inform any illegal alien when a federal immigration agency has requested their information. So think about the men and women in law enforcement behind me. That's basically, that's not basic. It's tipping off an illegal alien, and it's unconstitutional. And that's why we filed this lawsuit. And that's why we charge Mark Schroeder too, because he runs DMV.
You know, my wife and I, we were talking about Pam Bondi, and it's just so funny. She has a voice that when you hear it, you'd be like, she must be law enforcement because it's so powerful, but at the same time, respectful. And she's definitely exposed something that is crazy. So you're telling me that officials at these local levels are warning, tipping off, letting these illegal aliens know ahead of time when they're being investigated by ICE agents. Now, if that is not impeding or obstructing justice, I don't know what is. So I'm glad she's bringing this lawsuit, particularly Letitia James, because she, out of everybody, needs to get a taste of her own medicine, because instead of focusing on the actual crimes that are terrorizing New York City citizens, she was too busy prosecuting Trump. Now, former Governor Sununu also had something to say about this. Watch.
Well, look, when I was governor, one thing I asked at the time Secretary Mayorkas for was what is called an ICE delegation agreement, which basically says, look, you don't have enough folks up here to man the north, at the time it was the northern border. Basically empower our folks, our state police, our sheriffs and whatnot, to help you in that. And they said, no, we're not doing that. Certain parts of the country did that years ago. Even parts of Florida already have it. So there are ways to help, but one thing you cannot do is hinder, right? You cannot hinder. And there are not just New York. New York's kind of at the brunt of this, but there are states all over the country and sanctuary cities all over the country that have passed laws that specifically empower their employees to hinder. And that's just wrong. Right. I mean, at its fundamental level.
Now, there's another interesting angle in regards to what's happening here. On the surface, it just looks like, you know, New York and some of these states, they're getting what's been coming to them this entire time because they want to defy President Trump. But Bill O'Reilly thinks it's actually deeper than that.
There's what happens in public and what's really happening. So Trump wants to get Letitia James and Alvin Bragg. That's what this story is all about. Nothing else there. He went after Illinois because he wants to get Pritzker. Hates him. And the way to do that is to deny the states of Illinois and New York the federal grant money. The New York Post reports today $8 billion is going to get held up by the Justice Department that would have flowed into New York State, which is running an astronomical deficit here. Okay? So the easiest way to do this is to file civil suits against the governor and the attorney general.
Now, just being honest here, I could see why this would be true, because Alvin Bragg and Letitia James, they were so obsessed with Trump that they not only just prosecuted him, but his family members and business associates. So I'm not shocked if this actually is the truth. Now, here is White House Press Secretary, who also commented on the fact that people who continue to obstruct justice from this administration will be held accountable.
What does the response of the Trump administration send to any federal bureaucrats that are thinking about obstructing the president's agenda?
They will be held accountable. The president is signing executive orders daily, and he expects all officials across the administration, regardless if they are a political appointee or if they are a career bureaucrat, to adhere to the will of the American people and the 77 million Americans who reelected President Trump. He is here for a reason, and he is focused every day on implementing his administration's goals and sending $59 million to a migrant hotel to house illegal immigrants when there are still people in North Carolina and California who have not received FEMA funding is not something that this administration is going to tolerate.
And that's why we had a video on the 4 individuals in FEMA that were fired for sending that $59 million payment to New York City. And what's so interesting about that payment, it got clawed back. And now Mayor Eric Adams is pursuing legal avenues in order to get the money back. So I find it funny that first he gets his charges dropped by the DOJ, but he might even be suing DOJ to get the money back for migrants. Can you guys make that make sense at all? But let's first hear what he had to say, and then we'll circle back to what Trump had to say about FEMA and North Carolina.
Adams' resolve is already being tested. City Hall confirming that the federal government has now clawed back more than $80 million in FEMA grants the Biden administration awarded the city to house migrants. Adams says that they are requesting an emergency meeting with FEMA and are exploring all legal options.
We have reached out to the White House. We want to find out exactly what took place. It was unfortunate the previous administration left us with a huge price tag, and we want to sit down and explain how we should believe that the cost of the national issue should not be on the back of that.
Yeah, so if you guys were paying attention there towards the end, he's talking about how this administration has left New York City with a huge price tag. No, that was Joe Biden that did that when he opened up the border. So I think, one, he's mischaracterizing what's happening here. And two, American citizens are fed up with where the money is going. We were lied to about where the money went in the first place. They said that it was a conspiracy theory that FEMA funds went to illegal migrants. And now that conspiracy theory has been proven true. So he doesn't really have a leg to stand on, and he should probably be counting his blessings since the Department of Justice has dropped those charges. Now, here's what Trump had to say about FEMA in North Carolina.
$59 million going to a little small group in New York City. You get nothing going to North Carolina to help nothing. They say we don't have any money because they've given it away on the border. But you have nothing. What they did to North Carolina is a shame. And then they sent $59 million to New York City for a hotel for a little bit of nothing. What they've done, a hotel that was not luxury, that's getting luxury rates for migrants, where they're making a fortune, and we catch them. But a judge says, well, even though it may be a fraud, you have to send the money in anyway. Send the money. I said, wait a minute. We have money that shouldn't go because we caught it before it was sent out. But they want the money to go anyway. And I think you're going to have a lot of things to look at, Pam. I really do. What's going on with this whole thing? And this is just one group.
Now, what actually upsets me, and I don't know about you, is that the Democrats, they're so focused on Elon Musk and this fear that he's going to steal your data. But you know who they're not focused on? The scammers and the corporations that are already doing that. Because we already know our private information is wide open for hackers and data brokers to sell to the highest bidder. Have you ever had your identity stolen, gotten weird charges on your bank account? That's because big tech and corporations don't care about your security. And guess what? The government won't protect you either. They're too busy trying to silence people like you and me, and it's on us to protect ourselves. That's why I partnered with today's sponsor, Aura. Aura VPN huts down these scumbags who are selling your personal information and forces them to delete it. Give them a few weeks and you'll start seeing way less spam and less junk mail. They can also scan the dark web for any data and alert you immediately if something has leaked. And if someone tries to open up that credit card in your name, they shut it down quickly. And here's the best part. Aura can cover you up to $5 million in identity theft insurance. So to get started, you can go to the link in the description below or go to aura.com/Devori and get 14 days free. Now, speaking of the Democratic Party, Bill O'Reilly made an interesting point about what's happening to them because of DOGE, and you're going to want to hear it for yourself.
What about DOGE? What's your prediction there, Swami?
Well, I don't have a prediction because I don't know what the extent of the accountability will be. I agree there should be accountability. I think Sununu is right. Give them a little time to put the numbers on the board. But this is destroying the Democratic Party. It's absolutely, if you read the Cook report out today, Republicans have already surged ahead in the midterms, and it's only 3 weeks into Trump's second term. Because the American people don't want this. They don't want wasteful spending. They don't want condoms to Taliban. I guess they're going to prevent little Talibans, but millions of dollars? They don't want it. And the more the Democrats object to everything, which they are, the more foolish and weak they look.
Yeah, so in regards to them looking foolish and ridiculous and continuing to turn off moderate voters, right? People who are kind of center right or center left. They don't want to hear what's coming out of the mouth of Democrats. And they definitely don't want to hear what came out of the mouth of Congressman Garcia out of California when he called Elon Musk a dick during the committee hearing and wasn't actually focusing on the fraud. Now, here he is on CNN today, doubling down on his remark about Elon Musk.
I want to hear why, but do you think that calling Elon Musk a dick is effective messaging for confronting what is a potentially irreversible transformation of the U.S. government?
Well, he is a dick. And I think that he's also harming the American public in an enormous way. And what I think is really important, and what the American public want, is for us to bring actual weapons to this bar fight. This is an actual fight for democracy, for the future of this country, and it's important to push back on the chairperson of this committee. I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene talks about having decorum, about bipartisanship. This is the person that lies more than anybody else in the entire Congress. And so if she is going to make a mockery of hearings, I want to make sure that us as Democrats are bringing that same level of energy.
All right. Well, one, they still have not learned from the past election. I know we've been saying it over and over and over again, but they keep talking this way over and over and over again. That's the first thing. Secondly, okay, so what? You guys are in high school just because Marjorie Taylor Greene gets all aggressive with her rhetoric, you're going to match that same energy? Tell me how that's going to work exactly. How do you believe that's going to help you get the votes you need to not only take back the House, but the Senate in 2026? Clearly, that's not going to work. And three, again, they're not focused on the actual fraud. They're not focused on how some of these programs don't make sense. They're not even focused on the fact that American people actually relate more to what Elon Musk and Trump is doing than what Democrats are saying. So again, they're going to be on the losing end of this conversation.
And of course, after those comments, we went into exactly what Elon Musk is trying to do: dismantling the Department of Labor, dismantling the Department of Education, dismantling all of our consumer protection agencies. And so it's all important, but it's also important to get the attention of the American public and call Elon Musk out for what he is, and to make people know that Marjorie Taylor Greene is not a serious legislator and she shouldn't be treated as such.
Okay, so then the question is this. If Marjorie Taylor Greene is not a serious legislator, what does that make you, Congressman? What have you done for California? Right? I mean, I don't know where he's going and why that is a point that he had to make. And by the way, your guys' message doesn't work, because if it did, the approval rating when it comes to President Trump would be lower. And the ratings that have already come out for Congress in regards to the midterms, Republicans are well ahead. So clearly the messaging isn't working. Someone's got to be telling these people that. And if they are, I'm sure they're not listening, because the party came out today and now they're trying to pass legislation for reparations. Yes, you heard me correctly. Here it is.
But there is a movement, as Congresswoman Jackson spoke to, that continues to gain momentum throughout the country. So it's not just black folks that are self-interested in this. This is people of conscience that recognize the power and the necessity of the work of truth and reconciliation and healing. And there is precedent. We have done this for Native American, for indigenous people. We have done this for Japanese Americans. So when people say, well, my family didn't own slaves, why should I care about this? Well, we were able to do truth, reconciliation, and the work of the reparative work for Japanese Americans. And not everybody played a role in that either. So that is what brings us here today, and I'm excited to do the work of intentional and inclusive movement building and to appeal to people of conscience.
Okay, so this woman is calling for people of conscience, and she believes this is a time of healing. But moments later, you start rambling on how President Trump and his administration, they represent
government, no matter who is in power, has an obligation to right these wrongs, to provide reparations for descendants of enslaved Africans, to eliminate the racial wealth gap, to uplift the Black community. White supremacy is rampant in this country. Just look at the current administration and our own legislative body. They have contributed to the social and economic harms, to racial terror Black folks have experienced in this country. Now, more than ever, we must acknowledge and repair those harms.
We just heard about all of the money that is being wasted, even the $59 million that went to housing migrants in New York City, even veterans that are homeless, and all these issues within our country. You guys are focused on reparations. Again, how does that help the Democratic Party win back the Senate and the House and be prepared to take back the presidency in 2028? It doesn't, clearly. And I hope they keep doing this, by the way. I'm not complaining.
We can legislate justice.
Amen.
We can legislate healing. Yes. And we're certainly long overdue. And for those that would say we need to just get over it, that's interesting. When as a nation, you are benefiting right now from an economy that was built on the brutalized backs and the indignities and the horrors of chattel slavery and our African ancestors.
I mean, so no mention of the Hispanic community that definitely has played a role in all that, the Jewish community. I mean, everyone's played a role in why America is what it is today. Everybody has built this country. To say that this community is the only one that is responsible for our country being built is clearly ignorant. We know that, okay? Here's the other point I want to make. What is the difference between Jewish people and Black people as far as their culture is concerned? Jewish people moved on from the Holocaust. Black people have yet to move on. That is the difference. And until the Black community moves on, they will continue to sound just like this woman and all the other race hustlers out there, and they're never going to get anywhere. You know why? Because it's a victim mentality. Now, speaking of a victim mindset, the Associated Press cried about this event that took place yesterday where the White House barred an AP reporter from entering the press room and participating. And a lot of people are saying that is due to their refusal to recognize the Gulf of America in their reporting. Now, we know that Google and Apple Maps have already updated it. NOAA has also updated it. This is not a secret at this point. It is official, Gulf of America. But, these left-wing media organizations, they don't want to get with the program, so now they got to deal with the consequences. And here's their official quote. "It is alarming that the Trump administration will punish AP for its independent journalism." Really? Okay. Limiting our access to the Oval Office based on the content of AP's speech not only severely impedes the public's access to independent news, it plainly violates the First Amendment. Well, first of all, you guys are not independent news. We know you guys are biased. Let's just keep it real. And they go on to say that the White House cannot dictate how news organizations report the news, nor should it penalize working journalists because it is unhappy with their editor's decision. But you guys have penalized President Trump plenty of times on the other side of this, where you have refused to run the correct stories. Matter of fact, you guys have run stories that didn't have any facts whatsoever in the reporting, but you guys are claiming that this whole organization is based on independent journalism. Give me a break, okay? Now, here is Caitlin Collins, out of all people, from CNN, confronting the White House press secretary over this.
I have a thing for you. Which White House official made the decision to bar the AP reporter from the Oval Office and the diplomatic reception room last night?
Well, first of all, let me just set the record straight. It is a privilege to cover this White House. It's a privilege to be the White House press secretary. And nobody has the right to go into the Oval Office and ask the President of the United States questions. That's an invitation that is given. And there are hundreds of outlets on this campus, many of you in this room who don't have the privilege of being part of that pool every single day and getting to ask the President questions. We reserve the right to decide who gets to go into the Oval Office, and you all have credentials to be here, including the Associated Press, who is in this briefing room today.
But isn't it retaliatory in nature is the argument, because the reason that the AP was barred, which they said was because they're not using the phrase Gulf of America, they're using Gulf of Mexico in line with their standards. And so the question here is this setting a precedent that this White House will retaliate against reporters who don't use the language that you guys believe reporters should use? And how does that align with the First Amendment commitment that you were just talking about?
I was very upfront in my briefing on day one that if we feel that there are lies being pushed by outlets in this room, we are going to hold those lies accountable. And it is a fact that the body of water off the coast of Louisiana is called the Gulf of America. And I'm not sure why news outlets don't want to call it that, but that is what it is.
It sounds like it's simple to me. I mean, it's an official title at this point. I mean, Google even changed it. Apple changed it. So why are they holding on? Oh, that's right. They have Trump derangement syndrome. And no wonder people don't trust the media, because they cannot be impartial. They have to emotionally react and dig in. And it's a losing position. It's just fascinating. Now, one more story for you. Here is breaking news that the federal judge has ruled that President Trump can continue with the buyout program that he offered federal workers. So that means that those federal workers can take him up on his offer. They could go find another job and they will still be paid their salary for the next 8 months. Let's hear that story now.
This is the first really big win for the Trump administration as it struggles to defend the president's executive orders and new policies in court. Here, a Clinton-appointed federal judge in Boston said that the administration can move forward with the federal buyout plan for workers, the so-called deferred resignation program. Now, it was temporarily paused, the deadline to accept that offer by this judge, as he contemplated a lawsuit that was brought by several unions. But late tonight, the judge decided that those unions do not have what is called standing, or the right to bring this case, because they are not directly impacted. They are filing this lawsuit on behalf of their members. And in court, they argued that this buyout was not valid. They raised questions about whether the administration would actually be able to pay out workers who accepted. They also said that the 2 weeks that workers were given to make this potentially life-changing decision, that was not adequate. But here he said that for now, this buyout plan can move forward.
Now, this has to be said every single time. When was the last time you were ever given a buyout program like this? If someone was going to fire you and they said, hey, you know what? I'm still going to pay you for the next 8 months. I mean, that's unheard of. And federal workers seem to have this entitlement. Like, they get benefits that regular people don't. Like, they can work from home. They can't be fired. The buyout program is not enough. I mean, who do they really think they are? And again, the Democrat Party will lose on this issue. If most Americans truly heard this entire story, they would want them fired like yesterday. No buyout program. You know why? Because that's what usually happens in the private sector. Now, here's Michael Singleton bringing some common sense to this debate.
Well, Trump has repeatedly, as all of us know, attacked judges who have ruled against him. But does this ruling show he should back off from that kind of talk?
Well, look, Wolf, the president stated, I believe yesterday, that he would respect the decision and go through the appellate court process. He stated, I respect judges. And I think that was welcoming news for some of his detractors. With that said, though, I think this is great news, as Jasmine just stated, for the administration and for supporters of the president. A part of his argument and mandate has been to restructure and downsize the size and scope of government writ large. It doesn't make sense for us to bring in $4 to $6 trillion, but we're spending $2 trillion more. And so a part of that restructuring and downsizing is going to be shrinking the size of some of these agencies, letting go individuals who aren't necessary, and also looking at other ways you can save dollars. And so I think the president has the wind at his sails here, Wolf, and he's moving in the right direction.
Yeah, and just so you guys are aware, Bill Clinton actually fired 350,000 federal workers. So what Trump is doing here is something that's technically, it has been done before. So it's not really a shocker now. The way he's going about it may be different. That's fair to say. But the end result is nothing new. And this happens again in the private sector every single day. Just for some reason, the federal government thinks it's special, but I think they're going to find out that they are not. Now, this leads me to the question of this entire video. Do you agree with Pam Bondi bringing charges, or this lawsuit rather, to New York Governor Kathy Hochul, the DMV commissioner, and particularly Letitia James and Alvin Bragg? Do you agree with those charges, given the fact that clearly they went after Trump just with such an aggressive manner, not just him, but his family members and business associates? Let me know where you're at on this particular issue in the comment section below. Now, obviously, the huge breaking news of today was Tulsi Gabbard has now been confirmed as the Director of National Intelligence, which is phenomenal news, which means that RFK Jr. is up next, and he more than likely will be confirmed because he has already passed all hurdles. They just need to actually do the Senate vote. Well, there was other stories that you're not going to want to miss from earlier today. So if you want to check out that video, all you have to do is click on it because it's coming up right now.